I know there's loads of stuff here on the table, but quickly I'll go through the boxes right here, which are already inside this build, and then we're gonna go discuss everything else. So today we're going to talk about, this is going to be the main star of today's show, the case. And right here we have the Antec SYMPHONY 360 White and of course the NeoECO1000G M gold modular power supply, also in white, so it kind of pairs up with this case. But let me just remove those boxes because you'll be seeing those inside this build, so we'll have to have them individually, right? So let's start. We have the new case from Antec. This is the Nx416L, and it comes in white and black, obvious. And it's quite interesting. First of all, because we have a completely different concept when we're talking about Antec cases. And as I already stated a couple of times before, I'm quite digging the new designs on Antec cases. First the P20, then we have the Performance 1 FT, now we have the Nx416L, and of course there are all loads of other cases that really are outstanding from them. And when I was building inside this case, I was actually wondering, you know, when will we see cutout for a PCI Express or 12V HPWR cable that goes directly into the power supply shroud? And without even noticing this case, it has it. So this is something cool that I noticed and what I was reminiscing about, let's put it this way. But here we go. Two 160mm addressable RGB fans on the front, where you could also mount a 360 and three 120 fans if you desire to do so. But you have some closed panel right here. I don't think that should make any problems for a 360. Regardless of that, we have 120 here at the back, and they're all connected to a controller at the back, which has 6 addressable RGB headers and 6 3-pin headers for your fans. Now, unfortunately, it's not PWM, but regardless of that, you could regulate a bit and give it some adjustment. Now, when we continue with the fans, 3 120 at the top and 2 120 at the power supply shroud. Now, you might be thinking, how do we have a cutout for PCI Express cable or 12V HPWR if we can place 2 120? Well, the cable is slightly pushed forward, so for the huge, extremely huge graphic cards that not by the cooler design, but with the PCB design that have the connection right here, it's just enough. It's really cool and I really like it. I would place this one right here, but this one is far too off, so I didn't want to, you know, do some strange cable routing or anything similar to that. But first of all, we have a completely different interior, which is a big plus, and we have a different front panel, and we have a different I/O ports, different let's say not accessibility, but different, let's say, design. Nothing specifically noticeable. So the interior, as I said, it's kind of regular to have already now 2 120 on the power supply shroud, but we have that cable opening here. You have loads of space here in the front to push the 360 radiator, and we have a cover here for the side. Now finally, budget case that has a possibility to mount 2 120mm fans on the side, but also has a cover, because usually when you get these type of budget cases, because this one is well-crafted budget case, and you have to say that, and you don't get covers for the side. So I know not all of you will have or want to place 120 fans on the side, and you'll have an empty hole just looking hideous. Well, Antec placed a plastic cover which looks great, really nice, and big thumbs up. Definitely agree on that one. It was something that was missing throughout all budget cases. And you know, I did review an Enermax Marble Shell MS31, and the other one was, what was it called? The Superflower Zillion 704M. I think that was that. But the Zillion case from Superflower, both had the side opening to place 2 120mm fans, but no covers. So if you don't have fans, it will be only sticking out. And the cool thing is that the color scheme actually really does fit. But here we go with another thing. You have this mesh part right here, which of course doesn't have a dust filter since we're talking a fine mesh. The same thing goes on the front, and on the top we have a magnetic dust filter, so there's that. Now, as you've seen at the beginning of the video, we have Vortex 360 cooling down the 7600X, and we have the NeoECO1000G M gold modular power supply powering up the 7600X and the RX 7700XT from Sapphire. So a kind of cool combination where we're talking about, okay, the power supply is a bit too high. I won't go above 750 or 850, but really wanted to combine everything. And I think the black power supply would be really sticking out here, just to go with the same color scheme. Of course, if it was a black case, I would go with a black power supply and the Vortex 360 in black. Yeah. But regardless of that, one thing that I want to mention here is that the cable management is not that great. And I'm not saying cable management when you finish your build. I'm saying cable management from the factory. So you have two fans on front, have one fan at the rear, you have a couple of cables running from the I/O panel. So do reroute those cables to make it look nice at the back, and it will look nice when you spend some, I would say, 20 minutes just to reroute everything, disconnect everything, start from scratch, and you'll be able to manage everything properly. So at the back you have loads of standoffs to use zip ties and to tie up those cables, so they actually do look nice. They are nicely organized and really cool. When we're talking about general design, you have a tempered glass that goes on these two hinges and connects magnetically to the case. Quite cool, I do have to admit. And the visual aspect of this case is outstanding. I mean, check it out when you go with full white build, and then we have, well, of course, we have to wait for the addressable RGB to synchronize and for the initial blow. Yeah, there is an initial blow, of course. But when we take everything into consideration, and when you have these two outstanding addressable RGB fans that blow inside the case, when you regulate the speeds, create a fan curve inside your BIOS and everything, it's really outstanding. And as you can see, the colors on these fans are really great. Now, of course, we're going to get to the part where they actually synchronize. We have to wait for the MSI Center to get to that point. But until it does, let's check out the benchmark. So AIDA 64 Extreme Edition 360 SYMPHONY cooling down the 7600X. CPU went out to 80 degrees and clock speed 5450 megahertz. The GPU, I don't think it even works in those terms because it's 54 degrees Celsius. So that's outstanding, I do have to admit. Now, Cinebench R23. Constant thermal throughout the whole 10 benchmarks, 81 degrees Celsius, and clock speed 5350 megahertz also throughout all 10. Now, the scores 14,677, this is where it starts, and it kind of goes really around 14,700, which is something really cool. I do have to say I'm not disappointed in the results, and of course I do have to admit that the fans are nicely blowing air through the whole chassis, giving enough cooling and quite solid airflow throughout the case. Now it supports ATX, micro ATX, and ITX. You could go with an eATX motherboard, but you'll have to remove the plastic cover because the 24 pin will have to go through that hole for the fans. Then we have the I/O cover, front access and controls, power button, LED control button, one USB 3.0, one USB Type-C, headphone and microphone combo jack, and that's basically it, but still cool. Expansion slots at the back for the PCI Express. We have 7 of those, two 3.5-inch hard drives and two 2.5-inch SSDs, or three 2.5-inch SSDs. For the fans, we can go up to 3 120 at the front or 3 140 at the front. And stock you get two 160mm Antec custom fans. At the top 3 120 or 2 140, power supply shroud 2 120, side 2 120 and rear 1 120. The included fans, as already stated, two 160 addressable RGB and one 120 addressable RGB. For the radiator support, front you can go maximum up to 360, top as well, side 240. So this is a huge advantage compared to those two cases that I mentioned. And at the rear you could go with 120. When we're talking about maximum GPU length, when the radiator is installed on the side, maximum is 280 millimeters. When we go with front fans, 390 millimeters, even though these fans are mounted on the front part of the chassis. So the maximum length is 415 millimeters. Maximum CPU cooler height is 165 and maximum PSU length is 240. So taking everything into consideration when we're talking about budget case, long graphic cards, quite solid CPU tower coolers, 165 is still okay. and loads of fan compatibility, not to mention radiator support, because on those two cases you can't mount 240 radiator on the side. Here you can, and it's still not synchronizing, so I guess we'll have to leave it at addressable RGB for today. But regardless of that, you have the close-ups with the full white design and everything else, and it's really a nice case when you pair it up with the same color scheme with the components and everything all together. So guys, big thumbs up. I'm actually considering, and I definitely will give it a PC Crazy approved badge because, well, you've seen the video, so you already know why. Guys, the link is in the description for you to check it out for the Antec Nx416L, including the SYMPHONY 360 in white and the NeoECO1000G M, also in white. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, click the notification bell for future content coming quite shortly. Cheers, bye.